I am Jared Elf. I graduated in 2018. I was in the program for 2 years, I think it was. So I was pretty much in foster care before the whole process of coming into Threshold. I pretty much got told by my foster mom last minute that I had to move out because she was having a little one. And obviously I have full respect for her. And I was like, okay. Found out extremely late in the whole scheme of things.
My name is Colin Tessier and I'm the Executive Director. So we envision a future where all youth have access to a safe home, where all youth have the supports they need in their lives to be able to develop and grow into healthy young adults. We believe that every single youth in our community deserves that opportunity, deserves relationships, community, and support. There's massive need for our services and for youth generally in our community right now. Our sector around youth homelessness and youth housing is under-resourced when compared to some of our counterparts. There's holes all over our system. We continue to see youth who age out of care, often without any supports. We see young people who are homeless, living on the street, who are living within the adult system that's not designed to support them. We see youth who are fleeing violence or abuse in their home and who have little to no options on where to go that's safe for them. And so the need is serious. It's enormous in our community, and the resources aren't there to support that need currently. And so Threshold is committed to continuing to push to meet that need.
I told my worker's like, okay, let's talk to a couple companies that are around. Threshold came up and I got in here, and it's been a life-saving experience. Yeah, I was 19 when I came into this program. It showed me how to do a lot more things that I didn't really know how to do, and obviously built my skills up to where I am today.
My name is Andrew Reeve, and I'm the chairman of Threshold Housing Society. The most recent point-in-time homelessness survey in Victoria says that 41% of those that are homeless on our streets became so when they were young. And that's something that, as someone that's under 30, that hits home, because a lot of the people that are taking part in our programs are people that are relatively close to my age and in my peer group. So being able to take our way of looking at an upstream approach, we can say we're stopping adult homelessness, one youth at a time. That is fantastic. That's a way to really know that you're taking evidence-based policy solutions and getting them to a place where you're able to see how it can affect and create positive change in the community.
I'm a fairly purpose-driven individual, and I was drawn to Threshold because it enabled me an opportunity to have really what's become the most meaningful impact I've been able to have in my career. The mandate of the organization, the impact they have in youth in our community is significant, and it has a lifelong implications in their lives. Threshold's grown incredibly in the last 2 years in a really interesting way. The last 2 years have really been about putting the infrastructure in place, putting the systems in place, our policies in place, getting ready for our next leap as an organization in terms of growth and deeper impact toward our vision. And so we've done a lot of work to get our finances sustainable and trending in that direction. We put a lot of good practices in place as an organization, and you can feel there's a lot of energy right now building up, getting ready for that big jump to what's next for us.
Well, my name is Jerry Howell Jones, and I was involved with Threshold from before the society was formed in 1990. And my role was then as part of Threshold was as vice chair of the board from 1990 to 1999. From 1985, when Rick Zamberg formed a committee at the request of the diocese to look in the need for street youth housing. So Rick Zamberg was the instigator of this. Rick was the Anglican chaplain, street chaplain, and was intimately involved with street youth at that time. Well, Threshold came to be because the diocese requested this committee be formed, and the committee worked very diligently with Rick to establish to confirm the need for it, to look at the type of housing that was required, to look at what participants should be, what requirements there were, and more importantly, find funding and a house. So, and that came to a fulfillment when, in 1990, the society was formed.
If I wanted somebody to know one thing about Threshold, it would be that we are an organization full of passionate, committed, driven people who take serious the mandate that we've been given as an organization, and that we are acting boldly and prepared to be aggressive in order to impact the lives of youth in our community. The need is desperate, and we're ready to continue to act and push so that we can be more effective as we go forward.
I wish everyone in the community could know what it feels like to see all your hard work and all the effort that you put into something actually translate into helping someone often facing, the lowest of the low situation, be able to rise to new heights, to be able to get that job or get back to school or get that diploma. That's an incredible thing to know, that the work that we've put in has actually translated into real positive good for people's lives.
Nothing can be hands down to the staff and Threshold for extremely great. Most memorable moment would have been rock climbing with Sarah and Graham.
Youth are the future. I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm not some old man or anything like that, but you have to invest in youth if you want to invest in the future of your community. And when you do that, you can reap the rewards.
I often use the phrase that we don't work in isolation. We're interconnected in community. We rely on donors and stakeholders and community members. We do this work as a community.
The needs are the same, similar to what there are today. It's still there. It's still there. Lack of housing is one thing. Lack of skill training.
I've been involved with Threshold Housing Society for about 4 years, since 2016. We've had incredible progress over the last few years. Since I became chair 3 years ago, we focused on really modernizing the organization, hand in hand with Colin Tessier, our executive director, who started in 2018. We brought a lot of new excitement and energy to the organization, and I think we're going in a really positive direction.
I see us gearing up for something big. I see us preparing for the next big leap as an organization and the next big push to impact youth homelessness in our community. We're doing a lot of that foundational work, and we're ready to start moving as we look forward. And of course, when I look at the future, I envision a future where every youth has access to a safe home, where they have support, loving relationships, where they have an opportunity to thrive in their lives, and just enjoy a life like any of us would want for our children.
If I could tell my younger self something, it'd be keep your head up and stay strong.
My most memorable moments probably, I think I call it moments because it's more than one. But if I could combine them a bit, the first one is opening the first house. That was a relief. It took 7 years to get to that point. And the next moment was when one of our first graduates from Mitchell House joined Mary Carter on a tour, on a speaking tour at various churches, and spoke himself at the tour as how he had benefited from the house.
Hi, my name is Marian Little, and I was the Executive Director of Threshold Housing Society from 2007 until 2010. First quilt that we gave away, I remember it was an eviction. It was really hard, and it was harder on the youth than on me for sure. She was hauling all her stuff out in garbage bags and was just really mad and had every right to be. And there had been some violence, and we couldn't, it wasn't safe for her to stay in the house. It wasn't safe for the other folks. So, we let her know she would be welcome back, but that everybody had to be safe in the houses. And she was just mad and didn't have a lot of options, because there just weren't a lot of options. And as she was carrying things out, I just said, you know, come on back when you're done. We have a gift for you. And she just sort of snarled at me and said, what do you mean you have a gift for me? You know, and I said, we've got a gift for you. And if you want it, you know, I'd like to give it to you. And so she came back in and, you know, was kind of, you know, it really, I think, in a lot of distress. And I pulled out that first quilt and offered it to her. And I said, you know, this quilt has been made for you by women in the community, and that every stitch represents hope for your future and encouragement. And when you are having a hard time, you can wrap yourself up in this quilt and remember that you're wrapping yourself up in hope and encouragement, and that there are people in the community who care about you even though they don't know you. And I hope that that's something you can just take with you wherever you go. And she just, I don't know, just the whole tone of the departure changed, and she was still angry. It didn't take away the fact that she was evicted, but she knew that she mattered, and she knew that she was welcome back. And she did actually come back later, a little while later, and was quite clear with the other residents in the house, new residents, about how things were in a Threshold house, and really wanted to maintain that culture of sanctuary and belonging, and became really upheld that. It was very powerful. I think every time a youth came through our doors was powerful for me, and every time they left. And I think about all of them. It's been a lot of years, and I still think about every single youth that I had the privilege to welcome and offer sanctuary to, offer safe space.
When I think about the reason that it's important that Threshold is here, why it's meaningful, is that it is part of the key. It is a critical area to prevent future homelessness. And I think that's lost too often when we talk about services generally, homelessness services, housing services. When you focus on youth, you can change the trajectory of their lives, and you can minimize future instances of homelessness. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, driver into adult homelessness and chronic homelessness are youth aging out of care. It's people who become homeless when they're young. If we can focus on that age group, we can move the needle on adult homelessness in the future. We can see reduction. And I believe why it matters that Thresholds exists is that it is life and death. Our youth don't have enough support in the community. It's not an exaggeration to say that the work we do saves lives. I think it's okay to acknowledge that. That's true today as we house a young person who's been on the street and in great danger or in harm's way. And it's true when you project that out 10, 20, and 30 years into their life, the impact that their time with Threshold will have on that long-term trajectory of their life. And that's what we focus on when we do our work at Threshold. It's lifelong and generational impact.
That actually reflects, I think, a lot of the youth that are in our program, but also the positivity that we hope to bring through them, and the positive change that we hope that they can get out of all that we offer at Threshold.
In the future, I would like to see the Threshold becoming a wider influence across the province. I think it's going to be, it is a leader and should be recognized as a leader in this area.
Youth deserve to be housed. I think that the way that we talk about youth is often problematic. I hear people talk about street kids and street youth, and I think we need to be really careful about the language that we use, because youth don't belong to streets. Youth belong to communities. And if we think about community youth, community kids instead of street kids, we ask different questions and we come up with different answers. If we talk about street kids, we come up with solutions that have to do with streets. And if we talk about community youth, community kids, we come up with solutions that have to do with communities and with youth. And if, for whatever reason, a youth isn't able to stay at home or in some other stable place, it's the community's responsibility to carry them, to nurture them, and to offer guidance and mentorship and support, the kind of care that every human being needs in order to do well, in order to survive and to thrive. And I think that that's what Threshold does really well.
Going forward, Threshold's focus needs to be on a number of issues, but certainly more housing stock that's designed for youth, with supports and community that's designed for youth. We just need more of it in our system. The demand far outweighs what the capacity is in the system. I also see in the future that we're going to really try to work with partners like the local school districts to implement some upstream prevention work. So I think a closer connection between schools and community-based resources like Threshold can have a tremendous impact in intervening earlier in their lives, so that we can avoid instances of homelessness or some of the further trauma or harm that a young person faces without somebody jumping in to support them when they're in need.
A lot of youth that leave foster care or are not even in foster care that get kicked out by their families that don't have the support. And obviously we don't want some youth on the streets doing drugs or anything like that. So it's a great thing that Threshold comes in and actually supports them to try to get them into a safe housing situation.
When I first started there, I learned that the Threshold is the board that in old times, in many places all over the world where houses had dirt floors, the threshold was put across the foot of the doorway to keep the fresh threshing in the house, the fresh leftovers from when the grain was harvested, the stalk of the wheat or whatever grain was scattered on the floor to keep the house fresh and fragrant and healthy through the year. And the threshold was placed to keep it from blowing away. And I think that's what people need to know about threshold housing, that we keep people from blowing away.
Our members are some of the most passionate and driven people, and you can tell that you really care. There's nobody that gets involved with our organization for any reason other than they are here to achieve positive change in the community. And it shows at every event that we have, every time we have a meeting or a fundraiser, people turn out, and it's all because there's a genuine care and a genuine desire to get things done.
Past would be hard because life back then was hard to deal with. Present, exciting, and then future is brightful.